think we need a drum or two in here, maybe? Oh, that's a lot of delay on that, huh? It's tripped out, man. Bring that feedback down a little bit. And you guys all know what feedback, all that stuff is, right? If you have any questions about anything I'm doing at any point, you with the microphone?
Yeah, do you ever set a time limit on how much tweaking with effects you do on a track? Just till it sounds right?
Basically, yeah. I'll work on something. I tend to work pretty fast because, you know, I've done this once or twice. But I don't know. It's just when it's right, and you know it. And then I take it out and, you know, bring it to some clubs and play it. And, you know, gauge crowd response, see how it sounds on the system, you know, how it mixes with other tracks to make sure that sonically, you know, it sounds fat. And, you know, when you go from transition from one song to another, it's not like your thing sounded weak in Pinner or too bassy or things like that. So, you know, like I tend to bang out an idea pretty quick, and then I'll do the automation, arrangement, all that stuff. And then I'll kind of, you know, work it out after that and just, you know, see where I'm going. And, you know, no two projects are the same, right? Sometimes I'll get something done in an hour. I'm just inspired. I know the gear. It's usually remixes that are much faster to do because you've got sort of the idea like out there. You've got some parts to use. So it's like, oh, you know, it's like someone's given you like what you're going to work with. So then you do your thing. Someone else had a question back there.
Yeah, you mentioned when you're done with the track, you'll actually take it out to play out. Mm-hmm. Before you take it to play out, do you do any kind of processing on it? Or
yeah, I'll just run it through the. I'll run it through the Avalon just to give it just a little bit of limiting, not too much. I don't like seeing giant square blocks. It really annoys me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, when you get a file, right, a mastered file, basically what they do is they do compression and limiting, and the limiting brings sort of like all the sounds sort of roughly, you know, so things aren't peaking. You know what I mean? And it basically shaves it. It shaves off. So you have a nice loud sounding wave file, but there's like a new trend that's come out in the last few years where people just crush the shit out of the tracks. They do so much limiting that literally it's a big square block, and like if there's a breakdown, it's a big square block. So basically what it does is it kills all the dynamics, all the subtle nuances of the song because it's bringing everything to the same volume. And, you know, I think that kind of ruins a piece because it's just all loud, you know? You know what I'm talking about now? Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of that. You know, subtle nuances are very important, hidden sounds, things like that, and over-compression and over-limiting will ruin that. You know, most pop music it's just crushed to shit, and I don't like it. Not that I really like pop music anymore. It's not the 80s. All right, so let's put a clap in here. Our song is going to get the clap. Let's see. No penicillin will help. Let's not open an iTunes. QuickTime Player, I like you better. Oh, that's a crispy clap. It's like someone eating an apple. That's a good clap. We'll put that clap there, and I'll find a friend for it. Ooh, that's a crazy one. Ah, that's a good friend clap. You know you have friends when they clap. All right, so we'll have a little bit of variation going on in here. And we'll actually put claps where claps go on the 2 and the 4. So open that up. And then this other friend clap down here. Let's have a look at it. Doesn't start completely right on beat. Sometimes that's nice, but depends if you're making new disco or not. And we'll have that one lead a little bit. That might sound good. And with my Alt key and my dragging, do that. Da-da-da. We'll bring that loop small. So what I've done with this one is it's leading a little bit. So it gives it like, you know, when you clap your hand, it's like lazy, right? So you want to give it I like to give things kind of a balance between drum machine and human. It's what I'm into. Sometimes a good drum machine's always good, but, you know, it's got to have some swing on it. So now with our clap, we are going to eliminate some mud. So first things first, before we do that, since I'm really big into my MPC and my 909 and stuff like that, it's all 12-bit drums. That's why the MPC sounds so good. All the drums are 12-bit. So what we're going to do with this thing is we're going to put a bit crusher on it, bring it up to 12-bit, and not do anything else. And all of a sudden, right, our drum is just going to pop out, right? And we're going to do that to both of them. So they both just kind of jump out at you. So you can already hear the difference. It's snapping. And we'll bring it up to 12-bit. I think a bunch of the sounds in the 909 some of them are like 8-bit even. Like they just sound so raw and so crisp. We'll bring the level down a bit so our song isn't just a clap. All right. Now on this one, we're gonna move it over to here, and then our friend clap is gonna go occupy this place. Now when I'm listening to the monitors, ooh, it's like gravelly over here. Sweet. Now we can put a little reverb on that. Not that much reverb. None of these look very exciting. Let's see. You, over there in the back row.
Yeah, I had a question about the sub that you created with the sine wave.
Uh-huh.
Are you gonna cut any frequencies from that?
From the sub? No.
Yeah, so
No.
it's
We
just
want
fine.
that sub to punish people.
Right, but the high.
We've all done naughty things in our lives, and
Yeah,
when you're on a sound system, you must be punished by a sub.
so that includes the high end frequencies on the sub.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it needs it reducted,
Okay.
reduced, reducted. That's not even a word. My God, how much scotch did I drink last night? So yeah, I like to leave bass lines fairly raw. You know, like I just when I used all my analog gear only, I always left all those tones. They just sound fat. It's like you just want that like crushing. Like you go to somewhere that has like a function one or a void, and you have a nice sine tone sub in it. That just it presses on them. That kick drum hits you. You must think I'm crazy. All right, now we've got the clap. Let's put a hi-hat in there. You like that hi-hat? How about that one? All right. So much subtle nuances with our hi-hats. You guys are picky on your hi-hats, huh? Nothing yet, huh? This one? That's the one. All right. Somebody fell asleep. Can't just have one hi-hat, though. They get lonely. They like to travel in packs. Ooh, that's an ugly hi-hat. That hi-hat should be named Bertha. So now we're going to have another hi-hat, and it's going to do stuff with our hi-hat. And maybe we won't have another hi-hat. Maybe we'll go for some kind of tambourine or something. These are all congas, aren't you? What else do we have in our folder? Oh, the good old CR78. Ooh. Okay, thanks. It's kind of like an 808 or 727. Give me a little tight one. I don't mean like that. We'll find something. All right, so we're going to place hi-hats. Hey, what's going on here? Why can't I grab my hi-hat? No, I can. All right, hi-hat's looking good. Maybe we'll cut into that little peak there. So that way that really high piece of the audio that will make it louder than it actually is, we'll just get rid of that. Yeah, it's kind of glossy, a little bit sandy. All right, we like you. And your friend too. And how's your friend sound? Your friend's a little long. Wow. How come this thing doesn't fit in the screen? There we go. All right. This one's going to bicycle with that one. And we'll put our hi-hat on beat would be nice. And with the Alt key, over here. Wow, that's big. Da-da-da. I like to make little boxes. It lets me know where my things are. And you are good. Thanks. Thanks for that. We're going to place you. I don't want the snap on smart. Let's put it on beat. And things won't sound funny and wonky. Is everybody learning something today? I'll do this again over here. But guess what? This guy, he's not going to be the same. He's going to go over there. Or maybe not at all. And again, with our drums, we want to get rid of some muck. Ooh, it got all stereo-y on me. This from the newsroom. Top story at 8. Man makes hi-hats. I like to put reverb on drums because when you think of the natural state of drums, when you go or st, there's a natural reverb to the room. So I accept that law as causality, and it applies to me. You don't need to put drums on your hi-hats, but it, sorry, reverb on your hi-hats, but it does make it sound a little bit bigger. And then when you get all these textures together, it just adds like a texture. All these little reverb sounds and stuff together. Like, I also like to reference things. I got a couple different pairs of monitors. I'm really into referencing stuff in really crappy earbuds, some cheap Sennheisers, 2 different kinds of monitors, my television, the car, and like the earbuds I find, on the iPod, that's the best test because you can get a real feel of the stereo space and like, you can really hear all the little subtle layers and stuff. Because monitors, are like a nightclub. They basically show you how it's going to sound in a club, right? This music is made for clubs, but also people do listen to it on their iPods. So you want to have a nice dichotomy of, intricate things as well as things that bump.
I'm curious about how you adjust your mix after you listen to stuff in the car.
What do you mean? Well, I take everything into account, right? I know.
Right.
I've referenced everything into all these little listening devices. So, like for example, there's certain producers that I think their music sounds really good, so I reference stuff, and I know how this sounds at a club, or I know how certain tracks I've made sound in a club. So it's all about getting your reference down. So when you get to a pair of speakers that you're not familiar with, or different types of speakers, that like, okay, I like this. It sounds like this on these speakers. Therefore, it's referencing,
Oh, right. So having a reference track prior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I always reference stuff, play a couple things with it, or I'll just, go downstairs, put it on a USB drive, play it on the CDJs and record like a bunch of tracks together, just do a quick like 5-track mix, and then you're like, okay, cool. It works well. It sounds like it belongs with the other music I play, or no, it doesn't. I need to go and work or delete this song. And that happens. Sometimes sometimes I'll be working on something and I'll work on it all day and I'll be like, I don't know, this is kind of crap. So I'll delete the whole arrangement, but I'll use the sounds and everything because I've already set it up. It's already there. And then you play something else and it ends up being, second or third attempt a lot more interesting, right? And don't get attached to songs. That's something I can't stress enough. I've had loads of young people I've taught over the years music, and they always get attached to a song. I've been working on this song for 6 years. Like, it's never going to get finished, really. If you don't nail it within, like, a week, depending on, like, how slow or fast you work, if you don't kind of nail it right away, it's just let it go, Never get attached to something like, this could be my epic moment, just, if it's going to be, it's going to be, And also, we are all our own worst critic, right? I listen to my own music and, sometimes I think it's okay. But we're all like that, like, yeah, I made this track. It's cool. People seem to like it. And you have to get it out there. You just have to put it out to the world. Let them be the judge. You're just the carrier of the creativity, right? It comes through you, through your hands. You make some music. You're just channeling, And if you treat it as such that you're just channeling and it comes from inside of you, from the universe, wherever you think, whatever deity's helping you make tracks. It's just a vessel of yourself, and you are always going to sound like you. That guy's going to sound like him. So embrace your signature sound. That's what it's called when you make music, and it sounds like you. You want to do that. You don't want to be like, I make all my music sounds exactly like Henrik Schwartz. Henrik Schwartz is there for that. You know what I mean? They're there for that. So you want to be you. Coming up with your own ideas, your own ways of doing production and everything is the best thing you can possibly do for yourself. Being creative, like anybody, everybody can just make cool club tracks and stuff, and but how far are you going to go with that? How much longevity are you going to have in an industry where you're just doing some grooves? It's like people get bored of you after like your 5th release. Like, I already bought that song. He's just making the same song with a different arrangement. So I can't stress that enough. Be creative and try other things too. Like if you're working on some beats, you just can't get into it. Just be like, I'm going to make some hip hop. And seriously, sit down, make some hip hop. It'll just give you some great ideas for what you're working on. Like it's always good to experiment around, you know. Like there's songs I make that I won't even play for people. They're horrible, but it's all experimentation, right? It's like this is the biggest effects wank fest anyone's ever heard. Every sound goes, you know, and it's like, but you're learning something, right? You have to treat every time that you sit down in the studio or sit down and work on beats is that you're just going to learn something new, right? And I learned that you shouldn't drink a bunch of scotch and DJ the night before you have to talk to people.
Dude, I know we're just focusing on...
No, we're not. We're focusing on whatever you want to focus on.
All right, we're using Logic.
Yes, we're using it.
But do you use other software and
to make music?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I've been with Logic since Notator on my Atari Falcon. And I'm not kidding. You know, the Atari Falcon was dope. You had 1 second of 4-bit sampling time. Can you imagine?
I just find that using other programs sparks new ideas.
Mm-hmm. I tinker around with Ableton. Yeah. I tinker around with Ableton. The only thing I don't like about Ableton is the sound engine sounds pretty thin. You know, it can do some cool stuff. If you bounce the parts out and put them into Logic, they'll sound a lot better. You know, there's something about Logic's sound engine that I really like it. Everything sounds big. You know, just naturally. Like, you're just working with, like, bare bones sounds. It sounds really good. It's almost like cheating, you know. It really is. Like, you know, like, I used to have this giant mixing console and all this gear, and my room at any given day was 125 degrees because of all this electricity. My hydro bill was expensive. And, you know, you actually had to do everything, you know. Every time you made a track, you had to play with all the knobs, and it took you 3 months just to set up a song that you weren't happy with. And this sounds so much better than all my gear, you know. I have decent compressors and, you know, good monitors and everything. And just like, I don't know, they're doing something crazy with this software. It's like, it's pretty good. There's some things, though, I will stress. TB303 to make Acid, you can't beat the real thing. You really can't. There's some plugins, and there were some guys in Germany. They sent me a thing to demo a little while ago, and it sounded cool. It did some cool things, but it just wasn't it, you know. Like Juno 106, I think the pads in that sound so fantastic, you know. But, you know, using the software is still really good, you know. You can't really tell the difference. I can tell the difference at home because it's like I'm playing the keys, and it's got a certain trademark sound and stuff, but I don't think people are that. You know, if it sounds good, really, you know. Nitpicking is a little too nerdy. Oh, back to the news. I don't know what kind of song we're making here, but stuff's going on. All right, since we're playing with drums. This is a funny little drum machine. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of rubbery and odd. I have it kind of reminds me of I got a Lindrum at home. It's kind of similar to it. You know, it's like drum machines. They make, you know, stuff really fun, and they give it that very electronic edge, of course. So it's like I said, you know, like those claps sound fairly real. The hi-hat sounds, you know, somewhat played, and then you interject with your drum machine. We'll take that off so it doesn't clash with our kick drum on the one. And then let's start tuning these things. So that's a D, and we need to get it to a C. There we go. Let's turn this chain thing off, thanks. There, let's start all over. This thing has a mind of its own. So right here, as you can see, there's a key right next to it, right? I guess when I point at the screen, you can't see my finger, but there's a key. So we're going to, F is always good with C. They play nicely together. And we'll put that actually there. Panned anywhere. All right, I'm just looking at the sound here. And then later we can automate it so it does like things. And then it sounds a little too clean for me. Let's dirty that up. We want Cajun rice and beans. All right. That kick tom's a little loud. It's got a little bit too much decay on it. And our level, we'll turn it down a bit. We'll kind of boost the overall sound. Let's see, a little bit of reverb on it. Yes, Cleo.
Oh, brain fart.
Someone else had too much scotch last night, too.
Too much tequila.
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah. What's your thought on using Apple loops?
What's an Apple loop? No, seriously, what's an Apple loop? No.
Oh, it's like preset
Oh, no.
loops.
No.
Like hit O right now.
Huh?
Hit the O button. I think that toggles it.
Yeah, no.
No.
Because what's to stop her and him and her and you in the back there, yeah, you, from using the same loop and making the same track? It's not very original, you know what I mean? Like, you can make whatever the loop is, like, if you're looking for percussion, you live in San Francisco. You can find a dude to come over and play drums off Craigslist for like $10. I'm not kidding. You know, it's like you live in a great town with lots of talented musicians. Use them. You know, you're like, oh, I want a horn in my track. Well, it's going to be so much better if you get a dude who knows what he's doing to come over and do a horn riff. You know, and also when you're working with musicians, make sure you got your groove kind of laid down, your keys played, things like that. Standing gentleman. Do any of you play any instruments besides skin flute?
Who are you talking there? No, so anyways, you were talking about if you have actually live musicians to come in and, you know, say you're not at a professional studio.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so what would you use? Would you use
Adonis used to record vocals in his bathroom. The bathroom has great reverb, by the way. The bathroom's a good one. It's got like this nice little tertiary reflection to it, you know, the tiles and the tub and everything. I'm not joking. Like, you can get some great sounds out of your bathroom, besides, you know, the usual sounds. Yeah, real shitty sounds.
So say
You
you,
make
rec-
dubstep
say you
with it.
recorded into Logic, right?
Yeah.
Would you actually add on plugins or do anything to it, or what would you do?
Oh, of course. You know, you're just gonna.
what would you use though?
So, for example, say you've got a guy. He comes over and he plays the trombone, and you're stoked on it. You'd mic it up first. You know, it doesn't, and you don't. You can just buy yourself a like cheap Shure mic. It doesn't have to be amazing stuff. Like, this is house music. Most people who make house music tend to make it in their homes, and you know, you can set up a little. Like, if you've got the space, but you live in San Francisco, so I'm sure you don't. To set up a little isolation booth. Closets work great too. or you just drag the mic into the bathroom. Just make sure you get a long cable. Make sure that, it goes from your sound card. And I can't stress enough, too, make sure you have a half-decent sound card with some, like, XLR inputs and stuff like that. And, just so, like, I'm really into the Apogee stuff myself. It's a little on the pricey side, but it's worth it because the converters in it fucking sound great. You get some really great recordings just using that, So, you.
On your Apogee, are you going into
Reverb.
PCR card in the back of a desktop? Oh, I'm sorry. On your Apogee?
It's FireWire.
Okay, so it's just, are you going into a desktop or a laptop?
Desktop. So I've got my FireWire. I've got the bigger card. I send a bunch of signal to my mixing desk, so that way, things like my 303, the Lindrum, all that, MPC, all that stuff, because they're all on the mixing console. So then, yeah, I just plug the XLR right into the Apogee's great. It's got this snake that comes out, and you can go to your monitors for your outs, your inputs, all that. It's got like cables hanging out everywhere. It looks like spaghetti.
Are people using PCR expansion cards anymore, or is it all just FireWire?
I think it's mostly FireWire, but it doesn't matter. If it works, right? If you've got an older setup, like some of the older stuff, like built way better than certain new stuff, Like if you had, you'd be able to pick up like an old like Delta 1010 or something like that, and like, it's pretty decent card. If you can't, and it's better than having like a new cheap like M Audio or something like that. Craigslist is your friend. Craigslist is great. This city, like I my wife's from here. All my in-laws and stuff are here. I come down here and play all the time. And every time I come down here, I always hit the Craigslist because there are some serious broke motherfuckers here that are just pawning off gear for like nothing. Last year, I found an RE201 Space Echo for $80. I already had one, so I resold it for $400. Craigslist is your friend. Just don't make friends on Craigslist. Don't look for a significant other on there. Not those kinds of friends. Anyone else?
Quick question. Now, remember I asked you about the instruments, recording them into
Mhm.
a mic and whatever.
Yep.
Now, for vocals, would that change, or what would you do if you...
Well, first you'd record it in RAW, right? Just have the person go, yeah, 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 yeah. And you're like, yeah, that's awesome. We're going to make a fucking hit, right? And you record it in, you've got your audio file. In fact, we could actually do that. So I'm going to have to mute and solo anything. Or does someone actually sing in here?
Dania.
Right, yeah, okay.
You sing? Get on over here. Can you sing in C? What's your natural scale?
I don't have one.
D? Okay. Well, will you sing for me? Okay. It doesn't have to be just whatever. Even if you just want to say, like, I like popcorn. I don't care. Come over here. You got to come around. Since we don't have, like, a box with a cable and a microphone, you're just going to have to sing into the computer. And so we'll set up a little channel here for you. And I've already set this up for the internal mic because I was going to torment you with my singing, but actually, since I have someone that knows what they're doing, yeah, you'll torment us. So we're going to set up a little channel here. We'll call you the Secret Filter. That's your singing name today, your Secret Filter. So we're going to mute and solo this. I know it's counterintuitive to mute and solo, but because we have all these sounds going on, it's going to play back through the thing, and then she's going to be, you know what I mean. I'm going to take my headset off so I don't hear noise. Taking my headset off. She's going to sing, and then you'll hear it later. Okay, so if you want to, I'll play our loop, and actually, no, it'll come through the speakers. So you're just going to have to wing it.
What's the, is there going to be like a click so I know that I'm...
No. I have to turn the click off because it comes out of the speakers and it'll get recorded, right?
Okay.
And you'll be like, you'll have a click in with your singing. This isn't professional. We're just
Right.
We're having fun.
But, yeah.
If you can actually sing, maybe we'll make some music. I'm always looking for vocalists, so I'm not kidding. All right, so we're gonna hit record. Everyone's silent. If you have to go to the bathroom, do it now. If you take too long, I'll wonder what you're doing in there. So, How in depth do you want to go?
You mean like how long?
Yeah.
or-
Should I just turn the loop off and you can just go?
Sure, as long as I can breathe.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing too is like because we can't do this professionally, you can't hear the song and blah blah blah.
Right, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Spoken word's always good. It's always
Okay.
it's usually in key. That's,
Sure.
spoken word tends to just go with everything. It's sort of a, house music tried and true. Somebody talking about something.
You're not recording this dialogue right now, are you?
No.
Should be.
All right. So you hit record when you're ready.
Okay.
And I'm gonna take my Janet Jackson thing off here. If you want to just warm up before you hit record, please be my guest.
Okay, cool.
It's up to you. I'm gonna be the student now.
Why do my tears fall before I sleep? Memories of pain and hurt taking over me. Okay, just keep going.
Oh, we got some good claps in there.
Is that okay? Okay.
Are you happy with it?
I mean, it's
It
it's
sounded
just
great.
yeah, it's just for fun.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hello. Okay, I'm back. What's this? Whoa, that's a fancy pen. Your pen has an MP3 player on it?
It records like audio connected to the text.
That's rad.
Yeah. It's good for people who space out when they write notes.
Nice. That's pretty sweet. All right, fancy pen girl. Let's see. What have you done for us? All right, we'll put our loop back on. Everybody's happy. All right, let's. Yeah, we'll just normalize it. We're gonna make you normal whether you like it or not. Wow, that didn't. Oh, it's the clapping at the end is very loud, isn't it? So we'll just select. Why are you not selecting? You're not the same as my Logic at home. There we go. Oh, that's very slow. Wow. So we'll just shrink this down so we can do it in one foul swoop. Swooping your vocals. Look at that, you're normal. You're fantastically normal. Now, by looking at this, you had no click track to sing to, so you have a pretty. I'm guessing your internal BPM is probably like 118. That's what it looks like. Yeah, you're natural because people tend to like musicians and stuff. Like I know I've worked with lots of musicians over the years. They tend to talk naturally at a tempo that they're like to write music at. It's really funny, Like if you sample like a jazz grade or something, like talking for a track, you'll notice that like they're like dead on beat on some tempo or another. It's just crazy. You gotta, when you work on music forever, you end up with like a inner monologue metronome. All right.
Why do my tears fall before I sleep?
We'll just
Why
work
do
on
my
this.
tears fall before I? Why do my tears fall before I? Why do my tears fall before I? Why do my tears fall?
That's one of the things about working on vocal tracks is you have to like do these 1-bar loops and you're like, my God, it's driving me crazy. So what I'm doing is I'm putting this a little bit more on beat, and you can see by these little markers, right, where, the flow of the vocal goes, that, you want to roughly put it so it's in time. Otherwise, you just have a thing going on. Move this one a little back. So that matches up. And you don't want to totally metronome it either because you want to leave some semblance of like a human element to it. If you just want a robot to sing, That's kind of boring. Now we want the smart thing. There we go. I'll delete that. How's that carrying out? That looks pretty good. We'll put a little bit of a fade on you. Da-da-da, fade out. What number sounds good? Maybe 15? 15 it is. And we'll cut this little bit of fur off. Aw, your fur's been chopped.